everyone from the Jam Yearbook. I'm Jim.
And I'm Matt. Today's show is a special one because we're not focusing on any single year. Today, the Jam Yearbook is going metal.
Yeah. And I think this is fitting because it's going to be our Halloween special. The metal world's full of drama, dress up, and theatrics, but it's kind of like cosplay of hard rock pushed to 11. It's not to downgrade it by any means. Cosplay people take themselves very seriously and they dedicate a lot of time and attention that normal fans just do not.
And it's kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the music world.
That statement does not mean the same thing in Scotland.
Yeah.
That's like half your family here.
My oldest son is a proper redhead. So
that's true.
I just mean, metal, it's kind of like maligned, it's misunderstood, and it's kind of poked fun at when really those kind of comments should be, pointed at country.
Yeehaw. Well,
talk about cosplay.
Tonight, since we're no experts on metal, we've invited my friend Sandy Williamson to the show. He's a metal blogger and a lifelong metal fan. We wanted to tap into his psyche to wrap our heads around the huge world that it encompasses. Before we get to him, though, I will have to drop the disclaimer that Matt has always been a little bit more of a metal guy, and I've gravitated to hard rock only kind of in my life while dipping my toes in the metal world on rare occasions.
Metal, more than any other genre, it's its own world. It's so vast. Some of it's just so fucking brutal. Mm-hmm. that it is hard to take. And I know Sandy pained over giving us, this list of songs, but it ended up being a fun ride. There were some familiar names that I saw, some familiar songs, but most of it was like, whoa, what the hell is this? Yeah. And I listened to them like, whoa, what the hell? Whoa, Jesus Christ, what am I getting into here? but after chatting with Sandy this week, I'll never refer to myself as a metal guy again because I am so far removed from that world. It's not even right to say that anymore.
I don't really know if I connected with everything on it, but the exploration of it definitely brought new sounds and new songs into my life that I did really enjoy. So let's bring Sandy on, and like he has for me, maybe he'll help the audience gain a little more knowledge, appreciation, or even just tolerance of metal. So Sandy, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Hello, I'm always happy to educate the masses on the only and correct best style of music.
Of course. We got a lot of questions for you tonight, Sandy, so bear with us. Matt, why don't you kick it off? Get us started.
Let's start on the ground floor here. Let's just get kind of an understanding of where you're coming from. Give us some general background on yourself so we can understand like what generation you're from, maybe what bands that were around in your formative years.
Well, I'm 36, which means I was born in the best year of thrash, 1986. I'm from the sprawling metropolis of Dumfries in southwest Scotland, so a very small town of very few metal fans, really, apart from me and my friends, it seems. That all kind of changed when I moved to Glasgow. I was there for about a decade at university, and then working. That's where I met Jim and spent far too many nights causing extreme chaos in bars and all kinds of tales that we're not allowed to tell anymore. And then me and my now wife Sarah moved to North England to open a pub. And we did that for 7 years, and then we've just moved recently back to Scotland with our little girl. And yeah, so metal's kind of followed me ever since I was, I don't know, about 10. 12 maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, about 12 years old I think was probably when it started.
So you said 86 is like a peak thrash year, and it's also like in general kind of, at least over in the States, it's a peak metal year with all the hair craziness that was going on. So you were probably a teenager like 98, 99, the early 2000s.
Yeah. What was the youngest age? You said 12 years old. But was that when you were drawn to metal, or when you just started discovering it, or when did you start recognizing rock and music in general?
The first rock song I remember hearing, Walk of Life by Dire Straits, because my dad had this cassette tape that I'm sure it was probably just a Dire Straits tape that he played in the car, but for some reason Walk of Life is like the only song I remember from it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mainly just that, the little famous melody of it. And it's not even really that rocky, to be honest.
It's a keyboard, I think, that's
but for years I could not tell you what that song was called, but I could tell you the melody. I didn't know what it was. I mean, it was literally like early 20s before I heard it again and was like, what's that song called? That's that song. When I was like 5 years old. But yeah, it would have been, about 98, 99, I think the Offspring were kind of gateway to rock music for me. I was Fly for a White Guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
I heard
yeah.
that on the radio because obviously living in a small town, there was one radio station. I didn't have Sky, or when I was a kid, so my friend had Sky. So anytime we were around at his house and we watched the music channels, it was whatever was on Kerrang or MTV2
Mm-hmm.
at that point, and it was just picking bits and pieces out. So obviously, like my friends listened to a lot of The Offspring, Green Day. I would always like some of the other kind of heavier stuff that would appear on it. Enter Sandman was on it. Run to the Hills would, other Iron Maiden songs would turn up. It was kind of the big new metal boom. Limp Bizkit and Korn and Linkin Park all appearing on the radio. So that would be what was on in the shop, or you go to Woolworths or whatever store to buy CDs, and that was your choice if you like rock music. There was a little record store that a couple of years later, a little independent place where I could get some more stuff that like took me down dark rabbit hole of all kinds of different bands. But I would say that was roughly where it started.
Yep.
So that was about the same age I discovered metal, around like 12 years old. For me, it was Ozzy Osbourne's Bark at the Moon. So were your friends getting drawn to that same kind of music too? Or, it was just on, so they were listening to it? Or were you the one doing the influencing?
Well, most of them kind of stopped at Iron Maiden. I became a total super fan of Korn. It was mainly because the front man Jonathan Davis, like wore a kilt, played bagpipes, and it was like really, really heavy. It was totally different from anything else. They down-tuned all their instruments so much that you can hear bass strings clicking.
Yeah, they're slapping all over the place.
Yeah, they're so loose. That's what that weird click. If you listen to, like, particularly their earlier stuff, is you can hear it clicking against the frets. I think the first CD I bought with my own money was a Korn album, and then when I got to university, I found this whole world of, like, I moved to Glasgow, big city, record shops all over the place, and it was like all this stuff that I was just staring at, going, "What the fuck is this?" And I basically started buying all of it. I disappeared down much darker rabbit holes of metal than my friends at school did. Obviously I came across mates at uni and in Glasgow at work later on that would come to gigs with me and that kind of stuff. But a lot of the time it was just me just listening to stuff I listened to, or a couple of the bands my friends would also like. But I got completely sucked into music and I just disappeared, and that's all it.
So is metal what you exclusively listen to? Is there anything else?
I would say 95% of the time. Yeah, I listen to a bit of. I do listen to quite a bit of hip hop, because there's a lot of crossover in the new metal of hip hop and rapping and stuff. Public Enemy, the Beastie Boys, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg, and that's about it.
Okay.
That's the best, in my
very
opinion.
Much classic hip hop. And then there's the odd smattering of other bits and pieces. I'm guilty of listening to more K-pop than anyone my shape and size should ever be ever be happy to admit. But
so if you had to pick a favorite genre of metal, is it possible, or does it depend on your mood?
It kind of depends on my mood. It's probably death metal. I think I listen to death metal more than any of the others. I've seen more death metal bands live, I think, than any
Okay,
others.
so explain death metal.
Well, it's kind of like when the two bands took, like, thrash, like your Metallica, Slayer, that kind of music, and they took it as fast and as heavy as they could possibly get it. Like, a lot of really early death metal is very thrashy, it's very fast, it's very frantic. And now it's kind of moved into just really big, heavy riffs, big, heavy growling vocals. It's all about brutality, and a lot of it's about murdering people and doing all kinds of horrible things by the sounds of the lyrics. But it's very energetic, and it makes you want to just smash shit and jump around, and it's great.
So you don't mind the when you can't understand the lyrics if you're listening to K-pop. So obviously the screaming and the growling doesn't bother you in the metal at all then.
I don't know what it was. I can't really put my finger on exactly what it was, but at some point, I think it was, I know when it happened. I'm not entirely sure why it happened, but about 2005. So it would have been just first year at uni. Something clicked, and it was just all of a sudden I was like, yeah, I like this now.
Mm-hmm.
And and I mean, once you listen to it for long enough, some bands you can figure out what it is they're saying. Sometimes if you use a lyric sheet and
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you read the liner notes? Do you read the liner notes when you're listening to it sometimes?
Yeah, I used to when I was trying to figure it out originally. I was like, right, I'm gonna have to like stare at this lyric sheet and try and figure it out. But after a while, you kind of pick it up and get used to it. And yeah, you don't necessarily get all of it, but half the time, you don't necessarily go for verse, chorus, bridge, solo, verse, chorus, end.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that can maybe be a draw to metal, because you're not going to get the overused 1 5 4 6 chord progressions that you get out of other kinds of music.
Yeah, just stuff that's exciting, stuff that's interesting. It doesn't necessarily mean. I mean, I know you want me to pin down a particular genre, but I just find that any of the, as long as it's interesting and does something that is inspiring, then that's the kind of stuff I listen to.
Okay, so boring. What would make it boring?
Just something that's just like, I know it when I hear it, when it's boring. Stuff that's just like done before. Oh, I've heard this song a million times, and there isn't. That's fine when you get something that a band that really they kind of do a tribute to old school death metal, for example, has been a big thing in the last few years, where they play songs like in the death metal style that was like early 90s. It's not necessarily bad. It's just tedious.
So back to the growling and the screaming and in general in some of this music. At live shows, do people like go along with these words and just scream their hearts out?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's some of them actually. Sometimes when you see them live, it's easier to understand than on the record. On record, because sometimes
because they got so much effects going on.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's sometimes it's exactly the same. It's not necessarily like singing along to the lyrics or anything. It's more about
embracing that power.
Yeah, it's more about the kind of music and the way it makes you feel and jump around and smash up more. Not that I do mosh pits anymore. I'm too old for mosh pits. I like to stand. I'd much rather stand at the bar and appreciate it from a distance, because I've done my fair share of mosh pits, and I'm too old for that shit now.
Yeah.
All right, Sandy. It's obvious you set your camera up to show us your collection behind us. And I'm
hold it. That's
I tell the audience that they're listening, how many CDs are we looking at behind us there?
We are looking at 2,338 at last count.
2,338. That's crazy.
I don't care what you listen to. I mean, I listen to K-pop and I listen to like stuff like prostitute disfigurement and stuff like that.
Oh, that's harsh.
Yeah, what the fuck is prostitute disfigurement?
To be fair, I only have one prostitute disfigurement band, but there's loads of other bands that have got some really, who cares what you listen to? I'm not fussed. I listen to stuff from all over the spectrum. If it's good, like I said, the only real barrier is if it's good, and if you like it, great, and if you don't like it, then who cares?
You made a playlist for Matt and I. We talked about it at the start of the show to give us examples of metal to discuss. I really frustrated you by limiting you to 50 songs. And you told me originally you'd gotten it down to 66. I got a message from you that you were like, that's it. I'm at 66. That's all it's going to be.
And I told Jim that would have been metal.
Yeah.
Just keep it at 66. And I was outside with my chainsaw the other day. I had a few trees I had to cut down. Metal, that's a stroke of brilliance to listen to while you're using a chainsaw. That was amazing. But after a while, there was just one song that just kept going on. And I'm like, I'd take my phone down. I'm like, this thing has to be on repeat. Nope. You sneaky little bastard. You put on a song that was over an hour long.
Yeah.
I think it was Dope Smoker by Sleep.
Yes, I did.
Oh, yes, you did. And I had to look up the album to make sure that it was like, well, is this just a side one? Is there a side two like this?
Yes, my CD copy of it does have a bonus track on it that is 11 minutes long. Basically just an outro, But yes, Dope Smoker, 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 34 seconds. Look at how beautiful it is. Look.
So now at the beginning, well, not at the beginning, like a few minutes ago, you were saying about boring. So how do you not find that something like that boring? Because it's like the same chord for so long. Is it the anticipation of what's coming, or you got through it once and you're like, oh, this is a really cool part coming up when he starts singing?
The first time I heard Dope Smoker, I had it for a while sitting on my computer, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to get to this one day. I've heard it's like an old time classic. But it's, like you've got to really settle in for an hour and 3 minutes. You've got to be.
Yeah, you do.
So you were probably very drunk then when you decided.
I came. Weirdly enough, that was one of 2-hour-long songs I almost put on this list, and both of them I came home from a night out, strapped it on, and just lay in the bed half cut, and just play, and it just played, and it played, and I was like, I'm going to fall asleep, and I never fell asleep, and it's amazing.
Yeah, those are good moments with music, though, when you have those.
Yeah.
I found when I had headphones on and listened to it, it almost put me in a trance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about fucking like going to Pig Destroyer from that? Come on.
No, what's wrong with Pig Destroyer? That's a different kind of.
I don't know. You tell me what's wrong with Pig Destroyer.
Yeah.
These fucking names are incredible.
Yeah,
Is it a contest to see who can push it the farthest?
Sometimes. I genuinely think sometimes. I mean, some of them are. I mean, we had Prostitute Disfigurement before. We've had, there's Pig Destroyer, there's Dying Fetus. I like that. I've seen Dying Fetus 3 times live. It's difficult to explain those t-shirts, I can tell you that.
I bet.
Fortunately, the logo is quite difficult to read, so you couldn't get away with it. I some of them I think it's just, like some of them come straight out of like a medical textbook, and you're just like, I don't understand this. And that's probably Carcass's fault. Carcass is classic British death metal band, and their first album, all the song titles were basically just lines from this medical textbook or this like a mortician's handbook or something like that. So you're looking at them and going, I don't understand what any of these words mean, but they sound metal as fuck, so we're okay with it,
So you mentioned one. Is it Fetal Juice?
Fetal Juice, yes.
So do you say it 3 times and this other meaning appears?
To be honest, I wouldn't, because I don't know what would happen.
Yeah, just don't look in a mirror, right?
Yeah, I don't know what would appear. Like, I don't want to know what will appear. I mean, you get ones that are like my music library, the ridiculous library of Alexandria that it's become. I have some of the bands that I've got. There's like a band called Necronomicon. There's a Canadian one, there's a German one, there's a Chilean one. Yeah, so I think that's what half the time they're trying to come up with an interesting name is just to try and make themselves be unique.
So in our chat that we've had this week, you had mentioned Opeth and how their sound has changed. I listened to the first album and the last album, and I couldn't believe that was the same band. I listened to a few more, and I think it was Damnation, and they had another one out like 6 months before or a few months before that. That was more of what they were doing prior. But Damnation seemed to be that turning point where they just kind of went more prog.
Yeah, well, it's so that'd be 2003. They did Deliverance and Damnation. It's basically
that's what it was.
It's a double album, but they released them separately. They're supposed to be. Opeth have been doing these kind of like prog sections in their music going back as far as Morning Rise, Orchid. In the mid '90s when they started, they've been doing it almost since the start. But it's got gradually more and more, and they did double album Deliverance, Damnation in 2003. And then from there, I think the last proper metal-y album they did was Watershed, which would be 2008, maybe 2009. And then they just decided that they wanted to go on full-on Camel, Yes, Moog, proper 70s.
Did they ever give a reason for it, or they just wanted to go down a different road?
I can't remember off the top of my head. They did a bit of collaboration with Porcupine Tree.
That'll do it.
A UK prog band, and Stephen Wilson I think Stephen Wilson produced Blackwater Park, which is like Opeth's absolutely signature classic record. And then Michael Ackerfeld was on. He did a bit of work on Porcupine Tree. Deadwing was 2005, which is one of my favorite records, like prog rock. Prog metal albums. Deadwing is an absolute masterpiece. as is the follow-up to that. Face of a Blank Planet. That's an absolute masterpiece. I saw them live on that tour, and they played the whole thing, a whole album, and I've never been so enthralled by a 17-minute song live in my life. But yeah, I think that kind of, because Porcupine Tree started to go a little bit more kind of prog metal, and Opeth started to go a little more progressive rock, and then yeah, I mean, they hit. I think it was Heritage was the one where all of a sudden they're just totally different.
How did metal fans take that?
I think they were, it's one of those things that they put together such a revered catalog. I mean, if you speak to metal fans who like Opeth, like their stuff is like masterful. All the stuff they've done right back to the start. I mean, they've got 10, 13, 12-minute songs that go from like properly brutal death metal into these big flowing acoustic passages that are all very melancholy and melodic, and then back to it again. And I think they just released so many classic records that everyone was just like, yeah, do whatever you want, do what comes to you as a musician that that inspires you to keep writing music. A lot of bands do that. A lot of bands change their style and they get slated, but Opeth, I think, were just so revered that they were just like, yeah, we all kind of knew you were going this way, so go for it and see what you can do. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't listened to a huge amount of their newer stuff, just because not because I didn't like it. I've kind of fallen off. But to be honest, a lot of the kind of more mainstream big bands have kind of fallen off recently.
Yeah. So we've hit on a familiar tone that we've kind of hit on with these bands is seriousness, right? So are there bands that don't take it as serious?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's plenty of bands that they tend to be a bit more serious on record, but then live they're ridiculous. Probably the most easy example is Ailstorm. They're like a Scottish pirate metal band, and they basically write songs about rum, walking the plank, sharks, that kind of stuff.
So this is like if Jack Sparrow was writing for Sabaton.
Yeah, basically. Except, I mean, I don't know if Jim, you've never seen them live, have you?
No, I've heard of them, but yeah,
They're like the funniest thing live, up to a point. I mean, there's definitely a point where you hit it and go, yeah, this is a bit much. Their giant 20-foot yellow rubber duck that they bring on stage is a bit weird. And they did a cover of a Tayo Cruz song called Hangover, which was pretty wild. It's got like a rapper that appears in the middle of it. I think they're starting to run out of ideas, let's say. But I mean, they've got some great songs. I mean, they've got a song called "Fuck with an Anchor," which is just
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's great though if you listen to it. It's one of those songs that's definitely built for crowds to sing with. And I think as a fellow Scot, you kind of get the ridiculous humor of it. But when they started off, they were fairly kind of straightforward power metal, just themed into pirates and nautical.
Musically, it's not horrible though, but I mean, they got a lot of albums out of that gimmick.
Yeah, they did. They even wrote a song called "Scraping the Barrel."
There you go.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, "Scraping the Barrel" was on like their third album, and they've done about 3 since then. So they obviously keep finding things. I mean, don't ask me. I don't want to say I'm sick of them, because I'm not really. I'll still listen to it and be like, "Hooray, let's get pissed and jump around and stuff."
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen them at gigs. They don't have a mosh pit. They have everybody sits down on the ground and rows boats. Which is the weirdest. Yeah, no, the weirdest thing you'll ever see is all these people sitting on the ground, singing "We Are Wolves of the Sea" while all doing like this. The ABC in Glasgow before it burnt down. That'll be the last time I saw them. And that's what they all did. The whole dance floor on the ABC in Glasgow were all sat down and they were all rowing a boat instead of a mosh pit. So
what about satire bands like Steel Panther? Is that kind of garbage frowned upon, or
I don't like Steel
everybody
Panther.
likes a laugh?
Well, no, that's fine. And I think the idea of metal fans being like po-faced, can't take themselves so seriously, can't take a joke or anything is not true. If you go to any metal gig, there are lots of people jumping around being dickheads, loving life, and
they're just people. You're gonna have the dickheads. You're gonna have the people that can take a joke.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, some people. I think it's yeah. I mean, there's definitely bands that do like kind of tongue in cheek comedy, but not quite comedy. And but the thing is, in metal you've got Manowar, and Manowar really.
Oh my God, Manowar.
Yeah, exactly.
They came out in like these fur like diaper short things,
yes,
right?
They did.
Yeah.
They basically dressed like Conan the Barbarian.
Yes.
They should be a satirical band, but they're not, which makes it really weird, because they seem as if they are like trying to be more metal than anybody else. Therefore, they're taking the piss. But no, they're very, very serious about it. Very serious about it.
All right, so Steel Panther, they're obviously like a rip on 80s hair metal bands. What did you think of that hair metal stuff?
I like a lot of the kind of hits, I suppose. Like I quite like Motley Crue, 80s Motley Crue, and the odd Poison song, and things like that. But it's not something I used to listen to a lot. It's something more like, oh yeah, Girls has come on, and it's a banger, and I'm in a nightclub. Let's get pissed and fucking jump around. It's great. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of good songs there, and there's a lot of really terrible ones. Not including Europe, of course.
Yeah, but you're gonna find that in any genre.
Yeah,
there's the shit, and there's the gold.
But like, I've got Motley Crue's greatest hits, and I've got Shout at the Devil and Too Fast for Love, and I feel like I've probably
just have those two albums.
Yeah, I've probably got all the Motley Crue I need in my life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I think I have one Poison album somewhere.
That might be too much.
Yeah, well, you say, I mean, to be fair, yeah, you're probably right. I can name like 3 Poison songs. Every Rose Has Its Thorn, Nothing But a Good Time, and Talk Dirty to Me.
Yeah. Let's talk about Europe then, because Sandy, if I'm right, you are a big fan of Europe.
Oh, Europe fucking rule.
Yeah.
They still around?
I think so, yeah. To be honest, they're still touring. I'm assuming they're probably bringing out new music.
Shit,
they actually toured not that long ago, and me and my wife did not know they were on until we missed the tour, but we would have definitely gone to see them live.
Oh man, so they got more good stuff out there besides the Final Countdown. That's not the only thing they have.
That's like the worst. That's like possibly the worst song in that album.
Oh, you're wrong. I give that to Cherokee.
Cherokee. Yeah, that's a, we used to, the first time we listened to that, because I bought that record. I don't really know why I bought that record, but I was like,
because the Final Countdown.
I should definitely have a Europe album. And I listened to the rest of the Europe album, and I was like, holy shit, this is so good. But we thought, we were the first time I listened to Cherokee, I thought my wife generally thought it was called Geraldine. I can't listen to it anymore because
what's the Swedish band doing singing about Cherokee?
Yeah, every time we put it on, every single time we put it on, it's Geraldine. It's great. But like Rock the Night is a genuinely my favorite song.
Oh, and Carrie, that was a huge hair metal ballad.
Yeah, that's true. Carrie was a belter.
Back to proper heavy metal, or
True.
Yes.
True.
Let's go to Ozzy and talk about Ozzy. And what do you prefer, solo or Sabbath?
Sabbath Ozzy is more consistent. Well, it started off more consistent than the solo Ozzy. The first 6 Sabbath albums are just like absolute peerless classics. Easy. The solo ones, he has some really, really good songs, like all-time classics like Bark at the Moon, Crazy Train. Mr. Crowley, I love Mr. Crowley. It's like so creepy.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's got, he was another one that disappeared into weird ballads all the time, and his voice doesn't suit it. Really, his voice suits that kind of, that guy on Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath on the Black Sabbath album where he's singing about how the devil's chasing him and he sounds like he's terrified.
And then he goes to goodbye to romance.
Yeah, that's what that's what I'm talking about. The first Ozzy album I heard was, well, again, it would have been Down to Earth, the 2003 kind of time, and It Gets Me Through was the song, and it's such a good song. But like, I liked Sabbath before that. I was like, like Tony Iommi versus fucking Zach Wilde. There's no competition.
Yeah, but I think Zach Wilde maybe is probably the closest guitarist he's had to trying to recapture that Sabbath sound. I mean, he wasn't going to get it with J.K. Lee.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, you're not going to recapture Tommy Iommi. That's just
Zach Wilde. Have you ever listened to Black Label Society, which is
yeah.
Never ever do that. Me and my mates once did the drinking game of take a drink every time he hits a pinch harmonic. If you listen to
that used to annoy me with the Ozzy records too, because it was like his thing.
That's his thing, all right. I mean, if you I'm trying to think which album. I think it was the Blessed Hell Ride, I think was the album we tried it.
I used to play with a guitarist that loved that move, and every time he did it, it just gave me like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Blessed Hell Ride was the album we used to do it with, and I mean, I think by halfway through Doomsday Jesus, which was like the second song or something, we were absolutely arseholed because we'd been drinking constantly, especially in Doomsday Jesus, where he hits about 30 in the first 2 minutes of the song.
Yeah.
You just like drink, right? Oh, drink. Oh shit. Oh, drink. Right. Come on, keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's a great guitarist, and Ozzy's solo stuff and everything is good, but it's nothing on Sabbath.
Because Sabbath, when you put it on a Sabbath album, there's just an authentic attitude there.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. And when people try to cover Sabbath, they just shouldn't, or they should just faithfully reproduce it. Because if you're covering it, you got to plod along. You can't speed that shit up. There's an atmosphere and an attitude to it where I don't care what you got to do, fucking take a Valium, use heavy strings. There's just such a thick sound with it. And a lot of the metal that you hear try to cover their songs, the guitars they're just too bright for it. Everybody's using these really hyper light gauge strings, and there's no amount of fuzz or distortion they can put on the guitar to kind of compensate to get that really chunky sound.
What you really need to do if you want to cover Sabbath properly is do a Tony Iommi and get the top of your fingers cut off.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
you need to really
get a little nub sitting on there.
Yeah, you really need to take it like to extremes, because I mean there are a couple of good Sabbath songs that that have been good for covers. Like Into the Void is a really good one for folk to cover. For some reason, that one seems to work. I've got like 3 or 4 covers of that. Like Orange Goblin did a really good version of it. Monster Magnet did a really good version of it. That's one that works because it's fairly simple, and I say fairly simple. It's a fairly simple sound to recreate, because you don't need like Ozzy's wailing, helpless, cry in it. It's all it's a more authentic kind of stoner doom sound than some of the other ones. But yeah, there's not a huge amount of them I find that have ever been covered particularly well.
All right, so let's rank your Sabbath singers top to bottom. What do you got?
I've got Ozzy, Dio, who cares?
Yeah, that's really the only appropriate answer, I think. Right.
I mean, for me, they're the ones. They're the ones I listen to. I listen to Ozzy and
the classic albums
and the 2 Dio albums. If you have to, like, the album with Gillan on it's pretty good. Tony Martin's probably after that, and then after that it's definitely Who Cares. But I mean, I would still say it's really kind of Ozzy and Dio.
So you had to have liked Dio's solo stuff then.
I love Dio's solo stuff. Dio's solo stuff's really good. He's one of these people that I think everyone just remembers him for his voice. And he's an incredible singer. He's probably one of the best singers like metal ever had. It's so rich and it's so influential as well, but it's like
very expressive.
But the music behind it is, I mean, things like Holy Diver. I mean, Holy Diver is an all-time. Holy Diver's not on that list that I sent you. What is wrong with
I know. Yeah, but did you really need to put that on that list? You think we don't know that? Oh, well, yeah, but it's not like you're giving us your top 50, were you?
No, that's true. No,
okay.
And that's the thing. Yeah, I was going, these are the songs you have to hear, and I just kept writing and kept writing. I mean, today I realized I didn't put an accept song on it, which is just fucking embarrassing. I should have turned it.
Balls to the wall.
I should have just turned in my card straight away and just gone, right, well, I didn't write down fast as a shark. Right, fuck you, yes.
All right, guys, I'm going to shift this again because we could talk about Sabbath and Ozzy for another whole podcast show.
Fine.
So let's talk about.
I'll come back. I'll come back and do the Sabbath. I'll come back and do the Sabbath.
Hey, there's Halloween every year.
Yes, there is.
Exactly, yeah.
Let's talk about heavy riffs. Talking about Iommi, talking about metal. What is the heaviest riff of all time for you? And is heavy metal still a term? When I was a kid, it was, but I don't know if that's gone now.
Yeah, I think heavy metal still. Oh, heavy metal still lives. Heavy metal lives, baby. Yeah, but I think people kind of refer to it more as like trad metal now. It's like, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, they're heavy metal bands, but they're also kind of traditional metal bands. The kind of Angel Witch, Diamond Head, those kind of bands. It's all kind of I would say they're still classed as heavy metal. Well, that's what they're qualified in my iTunes as heavy metal. That's the genre thing on there, so that's all that matters. One of the heaviest riffs ever, and I think it's people don't really ever think of it as like a really heavy riff, but the kind of the mid part of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath by Black Sabbath is just unbelievable. It's got this incredible like grinding. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the hell Iommi does to his guitar, but I've heard people cover it, and I've heard death metal bands cover it, and somehow it still doesn't sound as heavy as Iommi's original one. So I don't know. I don't understand that at all, but I can't remember exactly which, like, I don't have the minutes to bit, but you'll know it when you hear it. It's roughly in the middle of the song.
Yep.
And you'll know as soon as you hear it, you're like, fuck, that's really fucking heavy. But I mean, probably two of my real favorite ones are like the opening riff to Return Trip by Electric Wizard. Yeah. That's the fucking heaviest thing on earth. I like going into Solid Rock in Glasgow and requesting that song, and then watching people's brains explode. I also like the opening riff to Ocean Planet by Gojira, who are a French death metal band. You probably heard it. I'll put it on that list, I'm sure. It's like they're a band that kind of re-revolutionized really heavy stuff in the early 2000s. 2005, I think that came out, and that's seriously heavy stuff. I love that song. And it starts off with whale song as well. So you hear the whale song and you're like, oh, what's this? And then you just get absolutely flattened.
So a lot of these bands that you've talked about, do you hear them on radio?
Oh no.
It's all pretty much.
There's no metal station over here.
Yeah. No.
Well, yeah.
No,
if it's a metal station, they're playing Korn.
I have to spend a lot of time looking for this kind of thing. It's unfortunately the UK is. I mean, despite the fact that we've got we invented it, some of the biggest and greatest bands in metal history are British. Unfortunately, it's still very much a niche product in this part of the world. I mean, you got bands that'll fill stadiums here. But you've got these same bands. We've got bands that come to Glasgow, for example, and play tiny little venues, and then they'll go to Europe and they'll headline stadium shows.
Well, shit, yeah, those Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, Finland. Holy shit, that is pretty amazing how they embrace metal up there. Yeah,
I mean, in Finland, they had. One of the bands that's on that list I sent you, Reverend Bazaar, they had a 17-minute song.
Yep.
And it got to number one. It got to number one in Finland on the charts.
I didn't think that was so long after hearing Sleep.
Well, no, it's basically a poppy single in comparison.
Yeah, kind of.
Hey, I'm also going to say there's a great Polish population here in the UK, and especially here in Scotland, and Behemoth, who Sandy just went to see in concert, Polish band, metal, fantastic. And then there's also Vader and Christ Agony. You know those bands?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
The Poles are really fucking into it. I think they do a lot of quite blasphemous stuff. I think because they're kind of Poland, I think, is kind of run by very evangelical Christians, and Nergal, who's the lead singer and main kind of guy behind Behemoth, got sent to, I think he got sent to jail for ripping a Bible in half on stage. And he's been in big trouble for, yeah.
What country was that in?
That was in Poland.
In Poland, yeah.
In Poland?
Yep.
Wow. Go.
All right, I have a question. They weren't really hair metal and just hard rock, or maybe influenced a lot of future metal players, because I hear it in the guitars of a lot of the music that you've given to us to listen to. What was Van Halen?
Oh, well, they were definitely very metal at times, but they're very kind of, I think they're more of a hard rock band. But I mean, Eddie Van Halen's like, he's such an incredible guitarist. You get like a huge influence of him and on like European power metal, and any bands that really go for full on soloing and all that kind of stuff.
So has hard rock like been pruned from the metal tree then? Is it not allowed in that genre?
Oh no, it's
in the same discussion.
It's it's one of those things. I think most metalheads are like, they're okay, and then they all get pissed in a nightclub, and then Jump comes on, and they all go off the
fucking
tits. I mean, it's one of those. We all
start jumping, yeah.
But I mean, things like I think most people know what Jump in Panama.
Oh yeah.
But, things like
House of Pain. That album fucking rocks.
Eruption's like fucking incredible.
Eruption really is the blueprint for crazy ass guitar solos on stage.
Yeah. You say Eruption, everybody's like, fucking hell yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you've got that. You've got Eddie Van Halen, Yngwie Malmsteen. These power metal bands in Europe fucking love a bit of soloing and a bit of.
And you know what, Yngwie Malmsteen, I hear that influence everywhere in metal.
Yeah.
Rising Force, baby.
Oh, Rising Force, man. That Odyssey album kicked ass. He's kind of got a blues tone to it, to what he's doing, but he's ripping off these scales at a lightning pace.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Through all of this, I have to say, I'm amazed at your compartmentalization of this and your obsession. I approve of it because I can kind of be like that in the forms of music that I listen to.
Like I said, there's a new band appears every day that I'm like, who are these guys? Listen to that. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. I need to know what they do.
And I don't understand because I know people that can just passively listen to music. And I think part of this is, at least for me, is, being able to, play in a band and play music. It's like, no, as soon as music comes on, it's like, that's my number one focus.
I like having something on in the background at all times. That music needs to be on. I can't just wander around the house with, no sound.
So you don't like being alone with your thoughts. Tell us about your childhood, Sandy.
All right, Sandy, before we did the show, we talked about the 5 that Matt and I pick for the show each week, and maybe picking the songs off of your playlist or picking them personally from us. We decided to go personally from us because we didn't need a song that was an hour and 3 minutes long on the playlist.
It wasn't me this time, Sandy.
Fucking callbacks,
But
gold.
Like, quite seriously, if anybody wants to reach out and listen to the show and they appreciate it and they want to know what this list of songs is that Sandy sent to us, just drop us a message and we'll be happy to share it with you. We're going to list the songs. Matt will go first. I will go second. Sandy, give us your thoughts on the songs that we wanted to share that we brought to the show for our metal choices.
All right. My first one is going to be Judas Priest, Electric Eye.
Classic. Will say one thing though. You have to have the Hellion first. You have to have.
It is kind of one of those twofers, right?
It is, because it's weird because I'm in the middle of some big stupid listening project where I've been listening to my iTunes alphabetically, right? And don't ever do it. It's insane.
No, it drives you nuts.
I'm into. So I've done E. I've just finished E recently, but Electric Eye came on and it didn't have the Hellion in front of it, and I was like, "What is this shit?"
It doesn't feel weird. Right.
Yeah, but an absolute awesome tune, and fantastic choice.
Good stuff. That's your first choice, Matt. You happy with that?
That is. Oh, you're goddamn right.
All right, so I'm going with System of a Down. And the song it's a well-known song of theirs. The song is Chop Suey. I like this song. It probably could be my alarm clock song in the morning. Wake up.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, yeah, I mean when I was a kid, that was a massive fucking song. I mean, it was so it's still even now, System of a Down, they're totally different from everybody else that was around at the time. You know, they were very, I suppose they weren't quite like a successor to Rage Against the Machine because they were kind of at this, around roughly at the same time.
They were their own thing.
But like socio-political lyrics, very very aware of things going on in the world, very like bringing to light a lot of issues within society at the time. You know, as well as just being fucking crazy. Like honestly, some of System stuff is so like light years ahead of its time.
Yeah. All right, Matt, your second song, what's it gonna be?
My second is Iron Maiden and Run to the Hills.
Yeah.
Fucking, you mentioned it earlier. Yeah,
I don't think you've heard of it. Do I need to add anything? I don't really know.
No, it's an amazing song. That's all we need to say, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah. It's
classic, amazing.
It's probably, is it the most famous Iron Maiden song? Probably the most famous.
It's got to be up there, right?
It's either that or The Trooper.
Yeah.
But this is one of those songs where I can't get sick of it. If you want to play it, go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Why get sick of that song? It's a good song.
Yeah. All right, that was quick. Your second.
My second is going to be, we've talked about Tool a lot tonight, and it's off their very first album, Undertow, Crawl Away.
Yeah, you see, this one I wasn't familiar with Crawl Away actually, because my Tool, I've never really, I kind of know the kind of more famous songs from Undertow, you know, like Prison Sex and Sober, but I never really knew Crawl Away. So actually, it was that was a new one for me to listen to. It was good. You know, I prefer later Tool stuff from Lateralus, stuff from Anima, but yeah, really good song. I mean, it's a lot of people hate Tool because they're very art metal up themselves, you know, and they are, but they make some really incredible music, you know, and they always have been. There's just a band that doing their own thing and alongside, you know, they're not quite grunge, they're not quite, you know, prog, they're not quite. They're just Tool, you know, and bands that are literally just themselves as a genre is like, I can really get on board with that, you know.
I just love how this song has a feel through the whole thing up until the very end, and then the guitar just fucking rips right in. And yeah, it's just a great solo, great ending to it. So yeah, my number two, Matt. What does Sandy think of your number three?
Well, let's find out.
It's like, does Dad approve? Like,
well, let's see what he thinks of Red Fang and Prehistoric Dog. Red Fang fucking rocks.
Red Fang do fucking rock. They absolutely do. Yeah, I am a big fan of Red Fang. They kind of cut from that same kind of cloth as Mastodon, Torch, a bit of like Kylesa, you know, that whole kind of scene of big kind of. It's not quite stoner metal. It's a bit heavier than that, but it's not quite doom. It's, you know, they're kind of
it's sludgy.
That whole kind of check shirt, doomy stoner stuff is fantastic. You know, there's what, you know, Red Fang, Baroness, Mastodon, Kylesa, they're fucking all kinds of.
Oh, I love that shit. Yeah,
they're doing kind of, you know, they're kind of taking that Sabbath stuff and they're mixing it with a bit of like Cuse. And they're just giving us, you know, and especially Red Fang, have got a big bit of rock right through them, you know, RAWK, capital letter type.
I get you, yeah.
Yeah, no, good song, Prehistoric Dog. You know, I hadn't listened to Prehistoric Dog probably in about a decade. When I saw that, I was like, oh, hit me up. This is the stuff. That album though, that self-titled album, that song, that Whales and Leeches, that's the song I like on that. That's a banger.
Yeah, it is definitely. All right, Jim, what's your number three?
My number three, well, I'm going to go classic Sabbath. You went classic Iron Maiden. I'm going with the song, though, off the album that's a little further down than probably the top hits or the top well-known songs. And that song is I Am Going Insane.
It's a good song. Man. Well, actually, you know, you say it's not on that kind of top level, but as I said,
it is.
The top six, the first six Sabbath albums are all classics. it's a good song, a really good song from a good album. It's not the best song on that album though. I would
I
give
don't
that
know.
to
I love this song.
I would give
Thank
that
you,
to
Jim. I
Hole
love
in
it.
the Sky. Hole in the Sky, I think I would give that to. But it's still a really good song.
Also good. Also
Yep.
good.
Yep.
All right. So that is my third song. Matt, what is your fourth?
Well, my fourth, Sandy's already brought them up. Mastodon and High Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good.
They're a great modern fucking metal band.
This is real good. It's actually, I'm surprised, like a Mastodon song, you went for kind of like a more recent one, because most of the time, you know, Mastodon, it's everybody goes for like the first two albums, because that was before they started to go a bit.
But it comes down to a vocal performance sometimes with me.
Right, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's really good. I mean, High Road's a fantastic song vocally. It's a fantastic song, actually. It's very catchy. And you still get quite a lot of the kind of traditional Mastodon. Yeah. Real kind of, yeah, they absolutely blew metal apart when they appeared on the scene. In 2004, like Leviathan, like Blood and Thunder. Blood and Thunder is like, that was a song that just like everybody's like, what the fuck is this?
It's something else.
Yeah, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I mean, what a band. I mean, I've seen them live twice.
Oh wow.
Twice, I think, seen them live, and they were fucking outstanding. I mean, thing is, as well, you listen to them and they're so technical, and everything's like the songwriting's incredible, and then you see them live and they basically just nail it, and you're like, how the fuck can you play that?
Because they're fucking talented.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're really good.
Cool. All right, so Jim, what do you got for your next song?
Well, I've got to embarrassingly kind of go back to late 90s new metal. This is one of those songs when you want to go home from work at the end of the day and punch your fist in the air and be angry at everything that's fucking happened in your day. It's Limp Bizkit's Break Stuff.
Oh, Jim, I could give you so many songs about being angry at the end of your day. That would be much better. I don't know, to be fair, like that is my absolute 13-year-old wheelhouse. You know, that's how I fucking loved Limp Bizkit when I was a kid. And then years later, I listened to them and I'm like, oh, why did I listen to this? This is
because you got to start somewhere. That's why.
You have to start somewhere. And I mean, I'm a bit partial to as much as some of it has dated very badly. Break Stuff is just one of those ones that you're just like, yeah, fucking Break Stuff. I like it. You know?
It still plays. It does.
And that album cover, that Significant Other album cover, is fucking cool.
Yeah, it is.
It's one of those things, and that's another thing. It's like bands that were fucking terrible but stood the test of time. We started this when we first turned on this video. Somebody, I think it was Matt, was singing "Rollin'" at one point.
Yes, he was.
No, I was not singing "Rollin'."
Yes, you did.
Yeah, you did. You went,
oh yeah, I did but it was in jest.
No, you can't take it back now. You did it.
Rolling.
Yeah. Actually, their version of the fucking Mission Impossible song for
it's kind of cool.
Was it MI2? I think it's the second one. Yeah, it was
around there.
Yeah. And then the thing was, Limp Bizkit, as a wrestling fan in the early 2000s, Limp Bizkit was on fucking everything. Like TV shows, pay-per-views, wrestling themes. It was like they were always there and they were everywhere.
Oh, really?
They were so big.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They were so big as well. You know, it's just like, you know, they're one of those bands that when you were 13, they were the best thing in the world, and when you're 30 something, you look back and go, why the fuck did I listen to that? But you still kind of like them, you know. It's, you know, you can't always get away from these kind of things, unfortunately.
Hey, Sandy, Kiss fan.
See,
right? Sometimes, right? Sometimes you look back and go, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, exactly. Perfect example.
All right, so there we go. That is my fourth song. What's your last one, Matt? What do we got?
My last one is, and I have one, or I can come up with one probably off the top of my head, in case this is disallowed, because I'm not quite sure if it falls into like heavy metal, but I'm gonna go with Uriah Heep and Easy Living.
See, I think Uriah Heep are a bit prog, they're a bit kind of hard rock.
I know, because it's kind of like Rainbow, Deep Purple, hard rock.
I hear that though.
I mean, they're very kind of. It's one of those early things that very kind of pioneering before it really existed. You know,
A lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff really though influenced the way it went, like kind of rhythmically with its changes and timing and stuff like that. And that's what influenced future metal.
Well, if you shoot it down, I'm just going to say the Wasp version of this song.
No.
Yes.
I think I would rather give you Uriah Heep than fucking.
There you go.
But I mean, to be fair, like things like this, I mean, is Easy Living, is that on Demons and Wizards? Because I know Demons and Wizards.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because I think Demons and Wizards is one of those albums that I think had a huge influence on a lot of bands, and I think Uriah Heep had a lot of influence on the kind of probably in the
Later
70s
bands.
and the 80s of later bands. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, I always say that the first heavy metal song for me is "Dazed and Confused" by Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
You know, that's the first
okay.
one. You know,
Yeah, everybody
it's not-
says Led
it's not-
Zeppelin 2 was.
Yeah. It's not really a heavy metal song, you know, in the same way of like Sabbath, like Black Sabbath is the first proper heavy metal song. You know, that's the first of any of them. But you can listen to something like Dazed and Confused and be like, yeah, I can kind of see I can see
where the
blueprint
influence
there.
is going to go.
Yeah, I can see where that's going to go. I can see like a little blueprint of where it begins.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Uriah Heep probably very similar. There'll be other bands that'll do songs hidden away on albums in the late 60s, early 70s, and you'd be like, holy shit, I didn't realize that. Like, there's guaranteed this is guaranteed there's a ZZ Top song that's actually a heavy metal song that nobody realizes. You know what I mean?
Yep. I'll take that as you're accepting Uriah Heep.
I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I'll allow it.
Where's your judge robe? That's what we should have done. You should have got a gavel, or you could just use a beer can.
Yes.
All right. So Uriah Heep, Easy Living. That is acceptable. Jim, what is your last one?
My last one, I am going to go to one of my favorite bands of the 90s, Rage Against the Machine. Their debut album, I've got picture disc of this with the monk burning on it. You know,
great album.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that I own. And the song is Know Your Enemy. Sandy,
do you know what? I appreciate you picked Know Your Enemy, because that album, I mean, basically every song in that album is, you know,
a great
awesome.
song.
Yeah.
Awesome. But I'm glad you picked Know Your Enemy, because that's I feel like that's one, like, people always do Bomb Track or Killing in the Name of, or Wake Up, because it's, you know, Wake Up's got that classic Zeppelin riff in it. Weirdly enough, I don't know if you knew this, Know Your Enemy has Maynard James Keenan from Tool on it.
No.
I didn't know that.
Psycho.
Yeah.
I to be honest, I can
That's
never
a
hear.
callback.
I can never hear him in it,
What?
but he is in there somewhere. according to the, because I looked this up, because I of course own this. I own all Rage Against the Machine albums. And I looked in the liner notes, and he does actually feature on that song somewhere. So now I'm going to have to go and listen to it again and see if I can figure it out. But
yeah.
But no, I'm glad you picked that, because I that and Know Your Enemy and Take the Power Back, I think, are my two favorite songs in that, and they're like two songs that you never hear. Like, people go, oh, Rage Against the Machine, and it's, you know, Bulls on Parade or Killing in the Name. They're the songs that people go for, whereas I'm just like, yeah, fucking Take the Power Back and Know Your Enemy. Let's bangers going.
That's the influence of radio.
Yep, it is.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Well, there we go, guys.
And just like that, our metal episode is over.
There you go, Matt.
We can cry. We can cry now.
Oh. Well, there we are at the end of our 5 songs. Sandy, thank you so much for coming on this show tonight. It's been a pleasure to have you here with your expertise on metal and everything. And I don't even really think we tapped where we could go with your knowledge. Am I right?
No fucking way.
I'm looking forward to the next Halloween episode where I can school you on even more weird things.
Yes. But it's been great to have you here. Thank you very much. Matt, as always, it's a pleasure.
Yes, it's been a pleasure to talk to me, Jim.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you. All right, everybody, we are out of here. Happy Halloween. Have a great Halloween weekend. Peace, love, and podcast.